Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sisko Day with Sirach Lofton, the son of the emissary, of course.
Hello, hello. Veldor Joy.
We have two very, very special guests. Of course, it's Ensign Mariner on Lower Decks, Tawny Newsome, and Uhura on Strange New Worlds, Celia Rose Gooding. We are extremely fortunate and exciting. It's going to be fucking lit, so let's have some fun. How's everybody doing today?
I feel great.
Great.
This is my favorite holiday of the year. I just decided.
Yes.
Tawny actually is spearheading the Sisko Day national holiday movement. And
I will now.
Things.
Yeah, I will now. Absolutely. I'll write letters. I'll write letters to all the presidents.
All your congressmen.
National holiday. That's great. Now, this is a special day. This is a really special day. Thank you so much, guys, for just joining in on the celebration. You guys are instrument in being the face of the new Star Trek that's out now. And it is a real honor that, you guys are participating here and just showing love to Captain Sisko and the way that he has paved for all of us.
I know everyone says an honor and a privilege, and I never mean it more than when I'm talking about Star Trek, and especially when I get to talk about Deep Space Nine, to be any part of the legacy that you all created. It truly is my honor and my privilege. So thank you.
Thank you.
Same. I as a general Trekkie newbie, like everything that I hear and learn about, I just continue to deepen my appreciation for everything that you've done, so that me and Tawny and everyone else in this Trek universe can continue to build off and pay homage to the legacy y'all paved. It's exactly as Tawny said.
Yeah.
Tawny,
awesome.
Can you tell everybody at home right now? By the way, everybody at home, thank you so much for joining us. Please be sure you are sharing this video with all of your pals. They don't even really have to be pals. We don't care. But, good people. And Tawny, can you please tell everybody at home what you were telling us right before we went live about Deep Space Nine being your favorite show?
Oh, Sirach and Celia were very kindly giving, we were all sharing praises. Sirach was giving lovely praise to Strange New Worlds, and we were talking about Lower Decks. And I was like, I don't know if y'all hear me, but anytime I do press, people are like, favorite Star Trek series? Because I think they think it's cheeky to ask someone who's on a show. Of course, I'm going to say my own. And I'm always just like, Deep Space Nine. And they go, oh, but what about your? I'm like, yeah, mine's great, but Deep Space Nine forever and always. It'll be so hard. I don't see a world where I change that answer. And if I do, I've been abducted. So call someone, because something is deeply wrong.
Good to know.
Yeah, I want to say, as much as we love the character that Captain Sisko is when we see him on screen, a lot of that is attributed to who Avery Brooks, the person, is that's playing him. And a lot of the things that he fought in the industry was some of the same things that that you guys are out here fighting for today in the area of social justice and equality. And I wanted you guys to go a little bit into, some of those fights that you've been involved with. I read about Celia, some of your activism in Broadway. Can you get into a little bit of that?
Sure. Yeah. That era, that chapter of my life is still very much with me. But reflecting on that, I would say so much of what I believe in as a product of my industry, and I come from a community of performers. So many of my aunts and uncles or my play cousins are Broadway veterans, and just seeing their behind the scenes conversations of what they're fighting for, and sort of just keeping my ear to the door when I probably should have been in bed, and then being able to have a platform and just fight for truth and representation and honesty and equity. It's it is just one leaf of the ever-growing tree of just wanting what we deserve as human beings. And that is reflected in so many different industries. It's reflected in Broadway, it's reflected in TV and film, what we're seeing right now. It's all advocacy for the sake of knowing that there's something that could be better, and then having the guts and the gusto to say, hey, I'm going to call this out and I'm not going to stop talking about it until I feel good about it. And so much of that drive and that impulse to do the sort of like good trouble, reckless thing is, I think we can see in Captain Sisko, and that instinct to sort of say, I know this isn't exactly the way you would go about what you want to do, you being the Federation and the powers that be, but I'm going to go about it my way, and you're going to be really grateful that I did. and that mentality, I think we see it so much in many different spaces, but I think in the Star Trek world, to sort of weave it back into why we're all here today, I can think of no other like pillar of that mentality greater than Sisko, really.
Oh, that's very well said.
Celia, can I just say very quickly that our good friend Lori Ulster in the live chat, she's from trekmovie.com, was complimenting your necklace. So
thank you.
There are people noticing.
Yeah, I didn't even notice I had it on. What? It was a gift from Christina Chong, our La'an security officer on Strange New Worlds. So shout out to her.
Oh wow, Tawny, you've been really active in this protest that's going on, in the strike. I mean, the writer's strike. You know, and that is a theme that was covered on Deep Space Nine. I had my little card poster, but they made a nice little poster card that was being passed around, kind of commemorating the strike. But that's just a sign of the kind of activism that you do as well. And I know now you're in Africa, you're in Morocco. So
I'm in Morocco. I mean, I'm not doing activism here. I'm doing vacation. I'm sorry. I'm not vacation. Noble.
Well, you know, just having that experience and soaking in different cultures, you know, that's the Star Trek way. We learn about cultures. We take in different customs, and it allows us to change ourselves and become broader in our perspective. You know, I think you're doing a fantastic job with Mariner's character, and you know, I just wanted to see some of the parallels there with who you are as a person and the kind of things that Avery Brooks was doing. You know, just being vocal about who you are, expressing your you know, your true self, and having this passion to use it in your performance and express who you are in your performance.
Yeah.
Where does that originate from you? Yeah.
Well, I mean, it originates from me just being always having been very loud, like truly in every sense of the word. I'm very good at raising my voice, and whether it's for something that, you know, can be kind of selfish that just benefits me, fine. But if I see an opportunity where it can benefit other people, and I know that I have a stronger or a more listened to voice because of the power and privilege and responsibility that being an actor, being an on-camera person gives you, I'm always kind of the first to jump in and do that. And, you know, again, I joke and say, like, it's not because I'm noble or some like super selfless person. It truly, to me, just feels like there is such an inherent imbalance in Hollywood, in everything really, but like the area that I work in Hollywood, you know, on-camera talent is just given so much more visibility and power that it almost seems bonkers to me that you would not use your voice, because we're the ones that get listened to. Like they put our faces places. So like, why wouldn't you use that space to make some shit better for other people? Because it might benefit you in the moment a little bit, but it's just going to create this ripple effect that hopefully just helps the next generation. And it just seems like, I don't know, it seems very logical to me. And a lot of times it does come from a place of like, it kind of can come from a place of arrogance too, because I'm like, well, I can affect change. I can help this. Here's a person who doesn't have as strong or as loud of a voice as I do because of weirdo classist reasons. I'll yell about it, because I always say, I'm like, they're not going to fire me. I mean, the truth is they could, but
no one can replace you, Tawny.
Thank you. That's how I walk through the world, which is maybe problematic, but no, it does just seem like it seems like the responsibility for getting to do this job that I love so much, for getting to do what I love for a living. this just feels like part of the deal. This is my, like, this is part of the job. So I saw that very much in, the stories that I would read about Avery Brooks affecting change on the set or in the script to just make the storylines better for Black people, to make the storylines better for, his Black family on TV. That shit it seems like a no-brainer to me. But I don't know. We'll see if I have a career in 10 years. But for now, I'm fine.
What you said kind of reminded me of, something that I remember Avery saying, and that is, you said they're not going to fire me. I don't remember him saying they're not going to fire me, but I do remember him saying you can fire me, like as in fire me if you don't if you don't like it. And to me, that's kind of the being able to risk that in order to say what you have to say, in order to stand on that righteousness, to say, okay, well, if it's too far for you, it's okay. I will accept whatever the consequence is, in this case, being fired. And I remember him kind of putting that out there, like, hey, just fire me, replace me if you don't like it. But this is how I'm going to bring it. And I think that kind of courage is really what makes somebody stand out from, people that are just willing to shut their mouth and just keep their head down and say, well, at least I'm doing well. At least I'm eating. Things are working out for me.
And so many people have to operate like that. I've been very privileged in my career, and I've worked really hard to have a good reputation where I don't, as loud as I am, I don't ever think I'm unreasonable. So I'm like, I don't ever think anyone's going to fire me, because I think they'll just listen to me and then be like, oh yeah, what we're doing is bonkers. Let's do what she says. It maybe is it might be a little foolish, I'm willing to admit. But I wanted to say one thing about the strike, because you're right. I've been out there like pounding the pavement a bit, which is so funny because I joined the union 10 minutes ago. I truly joined the WGA March 15th. I was a writer before, but I'd never like full-time staffed in a room until Kurtzman invited me to join Starfleet Academy, which has been the best experience.
Congratulations for that, by the way. This is going to be amazing, and we're super excited for you.
Thank you so much. I am excited to learn how to write drama, because I've never only ever done comedy. It's a new world. I was like, this is an hour long? What do you do the whole time if not jokes? So it's an hour's worth of jokes, right? And everyone's like, no comedy. But I just wanted to stop sillies. Nonstop sillies. Hijinks always. No, but I wanted to say that what's so important to me about the writer's strike is, again, the WGA's asks are not unreasonable. So in a weird way, I'm almost more striking in solidarity, because I have not made my living as a writer up until 10 seconds ago. So it really does just feel like I'm helping to use my voice in whatever small way I can to lend to the fight that my colleagues have been fighting forever against these streaming services.
Excellent job.
Celia,
you're doing amazing.
Something that just kind of hit me. Sirach and I both worked with Nichelle Nichols. Mm-hmm. Somebody was mentioning in the live chat. Oh, it was J.R. Poole, our good friend and excellent artist, mentioned that Nichelle would also wear Star Trek jewelry. So there's a connection there. But I was thinking, and we got to know Nichelle fairly well. I knew her really well in her later years. And there's something that you embody that beyond Uhura that Nichelle had, and that's warmth. She just had this sense of warmth and love and compassion and positivity. And it's kind of just radiating from you so obviously.
Thank you.
And it's great. It's great to see that because then you're not just carrying her torch, but obviously your own for a new generation of people. Can you just tell us a little bit about if you've ever had the chance to meet Nichelle, if there was something that you were trying to harness from having seen before, or what you kind of try to pave in your own way?
Of course. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to. We had something, her team and my team had something organized, and unfortunately, she passed before that was able to come to fruition. And I was very much someone who was like, while I would love to meet her, I understand she's in a different chapter of her life. So like, that's not something I'm going to be pressing anybody for. It would be a gift if it's possible. It's also fine if not. I have an incredible amount of, I've computers and access to the internet, so I can do as much research as possible. But I got to meet her lovely sister and some of her colleagues, and they were just so supportive and so kind. And I remember, this is such a tangent, but her sister was wearing these like gorgeous earrings, and I complimented them. I was like, oh my goodness, your earrings are beautiful. And she took them off her ears and handed them to me, and I was shocked. I was like, please, no, I like hoops as we do. And she took them off her ears and handed them to me, and she was like, Nichelle would do this all the time, and I just feel this impulse and this instinct to give these to you. And now I have them like in a box, protected from the elements, because nothing bad can ever happen to them.
These are sacred hoops.
But no, they're sacred and they will be buried with me. But yeah, I mean, to speak to that, to speak to your compliment, thank you for saying such kind things. It's really important to me to be the type of person I want to see in the world. And excuse me, a quote that sticks with me, that I heard one day many years ago when I was like 17. Someone said, be the type of person you needed when you were younger. And that mentality of just like, if you needed something in the world and it wasn't there, the best thing you can do is build it for yourself so other people can say that they had it. And I can, like, my brain is like singing Nichelle's name right now. And that's such a, I feel that mentality of just holding space for others and being able to advocate for yourself in a way that's not like harsh or sharp, or just like carry joy, because some people can't carry it with all the things they're holding. That is something that I try to do. And I think that's so much of me personally, but also Uhura as a character. In TOS, she was very much like the light, the brightness, just because of the landscape of the 60s. We didn't have a lot of opportunity for depthy storytelling for Black people, especially Black women. And so the fact that she could still maintain this reputation of someone who has such warmth, but still has layers of advocacy and still has major civil rights leaders cheering her on and saying, hey, we need you. That pressure, it requires you to carry warmth so you don't buckle underneath it. And that is something that has inspired me personally, and has definitely inspired my rendition of Uhura, because she's going through a lot of tough stuff, little lady, and it's important for me to still imbue recognizable bits of lightness and joy. And yeah, I could get on my soapbox and talk about existentialism, but I won't. But yeah, all that to say, thank you. I appreciate it. And it's very conscious. So I appreciate you flagging that. I will take that with me and carry it forever.
Well deserved.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because you mentioned the movement, and that's kind of one of the things that Star Trek has been consistent with, starting with Nichelle, at least Black people's part in Star Trek, is its connection to the civil rights movement and advocacy. Mm-hmm. You have her connection with Martin Luther King. I'm wearing this shirt today, this Malcolm X shirt, because
I clocked it and I was going to ask, but we didn't have time.
Yeah, but that's who Avery reminds me most of.
Mm-hmm.
He had a big portrait of him in his house. He probably still has it. And so every time you walk in the door, the first thing you'd see was this Malcolm X portrait.
You've got a nice portrait, by the way, right behind you, Sirach. Not
that's my Sisko portrait, absolutely. That I made it in homage to.
You made that?
I did, yeah. I made this for Avery, and presented it in London in 2012 during his panel. And but yeah, because he's so much like this revolutionary type of, one of a kind person. And I've met a lot of people, but nobody has been as impressive to me as Avery Brooks. and what he did with the Captain Sisko role, how much he knew was writing on it for iconography and for Black imagery, just also for just family imagery,
I still
he
say
understood.
I say best Black family on TV, not like
Yep.
sci-fi, not whatever, just best Black
Period.
family. That shaped my upbringing. Because Srock and I are about the same age, so I was watching, I was like growing up with you, kind of, and it absolutely changed how I viewed myself and my family.
Yeah, I feel the same way, and I was observing it as much as I was participating in, because Avery's such a spectacle. He's so spectacular, and watching his magic, play out in front of you is something to just watch, and it's so impressive. He's so conscious and aware of so many different layers of things, not just what's happening in the scene, what's happening outside, on the other side, the guy with the camera. He knows all of these variables that are playing, the measurements, the lenses, the angles, the light, and the music of it, the poetry, the rhythm of the dialogue. These are all just things that he does that are so spectacular. I'm glad that you guys, are carrying that same spirit with you. I'm just so happy to see that we're at a place where, there's more than just one of us. For a while it was a lonely place, and now we're seeing the imagery kind of get out there and become more normal for us to be, seeing a melting pot of people, and this is a reflection of how all of our lives are. And yeah, I think that both of you are just doing a phenomenal job of, once again, representing for the culture. And another thing I want to bring up, I don't know how much time we have, Ryan.
Funny.
Okay. I wanted
No
to
one's
bring
ever
up,
said that to me. No one's ever been like, we have plenty of time. You've barely
yeah,
talked.
that was plenty of time.
This is foreshadowing the writer's
actor's
room right
dream
there.
to hear. I have time.
I'm like, wait, I haven't sucked this all up by talking about the Rumpelstiltskin that showed up in season 2. Okay, got it.
Right. No, yeah, one of the things that I started to realize, just kind of reflecting on this day and just being happy about having this day to celebrate, I was thinking about culturally what was going on at the same time that we were doing the show in 93 to 2000. And there were so many things that were happening. But most of the connection that I'm trying to make in this particular argument is the connection to the culture, to, for example, hip hop music. I'm sure that other Star Trek actors before us didn't have that kind of connection to the hip hop scene, and the clothing. There was cross colors and the Carl Kanai, and we were wearing the African chains, and there was all kind of Tupac was releasing music at that time. There was Biggie Smalls, and I don't think anybody in the Star Trek writers room had any idea of these things that I'm talking about right now. There was no, they weren't listening to Tupac. They weren't, up on, Kobe's Lakers, maybe a little bit of that, but there was so much happening in the culture that I felt like were being discussed between Avery and I. The O.J. Simpson case, the Rodney King riots that happened. These are the kind of things that were happening at that time that we were having conversations about. And when those things happen, it directly kind of reflects on your own experience. I talk about, for example, being stopped many times going in and out of Paramount when I was filming, just being almost suspected of stealing stuff. And I didn't steal anything of any significance, but but no, a couple of pens and stuff,
Yeah. But we all
People
have.
that have watched our episodes, we've known a few stories. Yeah.
Yeah. But those things I feel like are just work supplies. But yeah, so a lot of the things that were going through at that time in the 90s, just racially, the temperature of what was going on in the city in Los Angeles, um, who was being, what shows were in production, really informed us. When you guys are filming, do you feel those same kinds of personal impacts to what's happening currently in the headlines when you're seeing something play out, George Floyd, for example, and then having to go to work and have that same the energy and where to harness it, how to use it?
Well, yeah, I mean, the first thing I think of is how I'm so glad that you had Avery during those moments, and Penny, if she was there during those moments you mentioned, because I have done a lot of jobs that I love very much where I was the only, and that that was just kind of the name of the comedy game for the last 800 years. Is they're like, we got one, time to go.
That's all we need. Peace.
Yep, we're doing great. Bye. NAACP award. Here we come. So then what ends up happening on those sets, where I'm very grateful to have a job, love my coworkers, but on those sets when, another Black man gets killed by police, you find yourself, your eyes drift up from your phone and you find yourself finding your AD or your hairstylist, if you're lucky, or, someone on the crew that you can just make eyes with and just kind of check in and say, like, I got you, it's okay, or it's not okay, or just someone to make eyes with. And it has been rarer for me that those have been fellow on camera folk. And I just imagine for you being so young, and you've shared with me privately the incredible relationship you had with Avery. I'm so glad you had that, because going through all that stuff you mentioned, the good and the bad, because even that cultural stuff can feel very lonely when you're just like alone and you're the only person listening to the new Tupac album. You're probably like looking around like, guys, anybody? No. Okay. This is a random tangent side note, but I had a man once who will remain nameless.
Name him.
He's a nice man. He's fine. And everyone loves him. So I don't want to, whatever. But this white man tried to tell me that he had never heard, this was in 2019. He tried to tell me he had never heard a Beyonce song and he wouldn't recognize one if he heard it, and he wouldn't recognize her. And I was like, sir, first of all, have you been in a Walgreens? Yes, you've heard a Beyonce song.
Like, please.
Please. But like, this was a normal thing for this man to say. He was just like, yeah, I've never heard her music. And I was like, I am an alien from another planet. I don't understand how you walk through the world. So yeah, I'm glad you were around someone who had heard Tupac, but who you could also look to for those more serious moments, because that stuff it's important, because it can be really isolating when you don't have that.
Speaking Absolutely. To that, I completely agree with Tawny, and someone who is, again, I'm just now like getting into the groove of things in my career. Those moments of being able to check in with someone who shares your lived experience and just like put those walls down for a second and check in. And me personally, Tawny was that person for me when you came in for our Lower Decks crossover, because the way TV is shot, you often don't, like, as a Broadway person, I was very used to seeing all of my cast all the time. And when I shifted to TV and film, I would go weeks without seeing cast members and being like, this is interesting. I am such a like social creature. I'm a Broadway kid. And so I'm very much like checking in, loving conversation, very tactile, very much just like, I want to figure you out so we can do the scene together and actually have good chemistry. And I remember Tawny came in and we were, one of our first long conversations, we were just talking about like what type of crazy auditions we go in for sometimes, and hearing just like bizarre caricatures and stereotypes of Black people. And the fact that I was able to have that conversation at work with someone who like gets it. It was such a like, it felt like the best exhale ever. And all this to say, like, basically agreeing with Tawny, as I love to do. It is so important, as we've all reflected on in this moment, that it's so important to hold space for one another and carry one another when we can't feel as though we carry ourselves, and to be able to look to one another and not have to do the whole explaining of why XYZ is important. Just be able to check in and say, hey, this is going on. I don't know how I feel about it. Can we check in? Can we bounce off one another? Can we vent? Can we bring our things to the altar and just like check in? And to have that, and I'm sure you had that with Avery and Penny, and just like it all goes to show that those sort of things are so important no matter what timeline we're in. It could be 1960, it could be 1990, it could be 2020, and there will always be those moments of especially within the Black community, to check in with one another and just like
good.
keep it like that. All of that is so important to have.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad you had that. I'm so grateful to say that I've had opportunities like that, and I can't wait for that to be a norm that we can talk about, not only within our own community, but also conversations that can be witnessed by those who do not share our experience, and then being able to take away from that, oh, maybe there are certain spaces that I can step away from so that people can have a haven, or, oh, maybe there are certain ways that I can show up to make sure that these people who need a haven can have it and feel safe and comfortable so that they can do the work that benefits all of us, of our experience and also not.
Yeah, I always say the business actors, it's tough. The business makes us crazy. It really does. Like when your face and body and personality are your product and service that you're selling, you're either already not well in your mind or you're slowly going there because the business is doing it. I'm so serious. It takes such an active effort to maintain like any sense of groundedness that I'm just like, please put Black people and stuff together just so we can like hang on to each other a little bit more.
With a vice grip.
I'm
like
sinking.
That, but it's real. It's so real because we live in scary, turbulent times, and it's so important to not feel as though we have to carry the brunt of that on our own, especially as we were talking about, often we're the only ones of our experience in the room, and it's a lot to carry all the time. And so having opportunities to check in is so important, and having spaces or just enlightening individuals who don't have the same understanding you do of just like, hey, this is something that is going on within me. You don't have to understand it, but you gotta know this is what's happening. And I'm going to go now fall back into my community and just check in, do a temp check. And that's so important. As someone who was born with their mind lost, it's acting has been a haven for that sort of stuff. But it's incredibly important. And as you were saying, it's all a part of the Black Trek legacy specifically. There's often been only one of us, but as we continue to build off of the foundation blocks that you have so carefully and specifically placed, we couldn't be doing any of this without y'all. And so it's ever growing, ever moving, ever shifting, ever changing, but it's important to have a grounded constant, and y'all have built that for us. So the fact that we can break bread on set is a testament to the doors y'all have kicked down and kept down, which is killer. And we're incredibly grateful to y'all, because it's no small feat what you have continued to persevere through. It's powerful and impactful, and I hope Sirak, that you have not just a hand, but a full arm in the evolution and the oh God, what's the word? This is why we need to pay our writers so that someone can tell me what to say.
Don't worry, it's not live.
You're so amazing. I thank you for it. But I really feel like I was just guided by the people that before us, and Avery made sure when, for example, my grandfather was played by Brock Peters. When Brock Peters was on the set, he made sure that Brock Peters got the royal treatment, because he knew that he wouldn't be there if it wasn't for guys like Brock Peters. And so we're all just doing our part to just, hold down the fort until we get reinforcements.
Yes.
And that's really what I feel like, that's why I'm so happy that you guys are here and that I'm able to
Yes.
have these conversations with you, because I couldn't have them before. And
Yes.
it was that kind of lonely place where you don't have anybody who can 100% bounce the full lived experience that you have, you know. And so when you have somebody who says, I don't know who Beyonce is, I never heard that, or you know, who's Tupac, and you're like, oh, okay, so this is not gonna go well.
Right.
Yeah.
That's when I just go to Crafty. I'm like, I gotta go
Exactly.
get a peanut butter
And
sandwich.
they seem small, but it's
Right.
a big deal. Because I remember
big
when
moment.
Break My Soul came out, talking about Beyonce, you
Yeah.
did it. When Break My Soul came out, and I was like,
I
and
know.
everyone
Yeah.
was like, Celia, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. You can't in the hair trailer.
Like, this is a cultural moment.
I'm like, this is a moment in time. But
yeah. I've been so fortunate. I love what you said about Brock, about how Avery would turn to. I love how Black people like immediately shift to like take care of the elder. Like, we would not be here without him. So like take care of the elder, because they also know that, I feel like as Black people, we always know, like, whatever bullshit I've dealt with in my career, someone 20 years older than me has dealt with 20 more years, but exponentially worse, because it was the past and it was worse then. So they've dealt with so much more. So you're just like, I just want to make your time here like as cushiony as possible. I feel that way very much with the actor who plays my mom, Captain Freeman, Dawn Lewis.
Yeah.
She doesn't
Yeah.
need my help, but she needs no one's help. She's
no
a
one's
force.
help.
Dawn is killing it.
Dawn is good. Dawn helps everyone else exist. But I do feel that anytime we're on a panel, anytime we're anything, I'm just like, I want to take care of my mama. I want to make sure that she gets a spotlight too. It's important.
Because
Hey,
like
we
you
only
said,
have
they went through a little bit rougher than us, and they had it a little bit harder than us, and they paved ways for us, you know, monetarily, access to different things. It's just so many different things. You know, just being the number one on the call sheet in general, having that being a real thing and an idea that exists. All of those things we owe great gratitude for. And I'm so thankful that you guys were here to be able to celebrate this moment with us. To honor Captain Sisko, to honor Avery Brooks, the man who made Captain Sisko. Thank you so much. Ryan,
so
I'm sorry, I
we
cut
just
you off.
oh no, not at all. We just have about a minute left. A couple quick things. Our good buddy in the live chat back of the head, that's John Orchiola of Screen Rant. He loves you ladies very
Hi,
much,
John.
and he
We love
keeps
John.
saying
We
he
love
wishes
John.
this conversation could last all day. And also Linda Anderegg, Tawny, when you mentioned you were Sirach's age, she said she thought you were in your 20s, and she said it must be your energy that keeps you young. So that was
keep thinking that. No, I stay out of the sun, and I'll be sure to pass your comments along to the lady who does my Botox. Thank you so much.
But lastly, in the final 30 seconds, I know me personally, you also mentioned family. When I think of family, I think of the Siskos. I think of Deep Space Nine. I think of the Siskos. Can you each just give a couple words on the importance of the Sisko family? I'm so glad Sirach brought up Mr. Brock Peters, because that man is the legend of all legends. But yeah, the Sisko family.
I think about how, as a kid, I was able to watch a Black family that had dealt with hardship, but was not defined by hardship, live in space, live in the future, be joyous and goofy, and talk about baseball. I got to watch a military dad nurture his son's creative pursuits, love of creative writing, in such a beautiful way that had nothing to do and everything to do with being Black. Their shared love of, New Orleans food, all these things that were just infused with Blackness, but didn't ever have to say, remember slavery, remember hardship, hardship, hardship. And those stories to me were so joyous. And like I said earlier, it changed how I viewed myself, my family. It's the reason I'm in Star Trek today, because it made me the fan that I am. And I got the job because I geeked out in my audition with Mike McMahon. And he was like, you're a nerd, come over here. So I literally owe the Siskos my current career. So thank you.
I would say, I am still, because I'm trying to get as much Trek information as possible, specifically how Blackness is represented in Trek. And it's exactly as Tawny said, it's so refreshing, especially in our current climate, especially with how our stories are being told, specifically in this past like 2020, of just how so much of our stories are rife with hardship, even like just struggle for struggle's sake. I think it's so beautiful to have a catalog of Blackness in sci-fi, not like under a prosthetic or in a way that like hides phenotypically Black features. Like it was and is so refreshing to see a Black family just exist and care for one another, just as families do around the world every day. And in the future, both cementing an idea that there is space for this sort of softness and love for one another, especially within the Black community in the future. It gives us something to look forward to. And that is so necessary right now. And it's a testament to the family dynamic that y'all created in the past. We're using a standard set several decades ago to be the sort of like, once we can get there and it be a norm and not like a spectacle, once that's the norm of storytelling for our community, that's when we can sort of really exhale and say, okay, I'm happy with where we are right now. And to have that as a pillar and something that we can always look back to, it's incredible. It's essential, and the importantness, the words, Jesus, the importantness of it cannot be understated. Because once we start to understate things, we lose the magic, and there's so much magic and joy and lovely, yummy family dynamic of peace and community. It's beautiful to see and beautiful to have.
I agree. And for me, what I'm doing with my own reflection on it is trying to be a good father to my daughter, who's nearing the age I was when I started.
And winning championships, by the way, including yesterday.
Yeah,
congrats.
Constantly.
And I think the important thing is to be in connection with each other as a family. The touching, the kisses on the forehead, the hugs, the I love yous, the I'm proud of yous. I mean, all of those things for me are emulate and embody what family is about, and that's how Sisko really showed how much he cared about Jake, by just putting his arm around him.
I know we're out of time, but you just blew my mind, because I've never thought about how much touching we saw between you and Avery, and how I had never seen that between a Black dad and son in the 90s. Yeah. No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
The kiss on the forehead. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Mm-hmm. It's amazing.
It's beautiful. And we comment on it constantly on our show, because it really, it's touching. It's so, in the sense of, it just moves you, and it's beautiful. And again, it gives you the sense of realness, and it really transcends, especially because he meant it. Clearly Avery meant it, and he loved you, and he still does very clearly. So as we go out, just a quick shout out to a lot of the people in the live chat, especially people like Mr. Rico E. Anderson, TJ Jackson Bay, David Gregory, Tamitha Tyndall. We see all of you and appreciate you. That's about it, everybody. Up next in just about 30 seconds, we've got Deep Space Nine art with legendary artists, Jenny R. Johnson and JJ Lendl. It's going to be freaking amazing. You can get it right now. Just go to the siskoday.com, click on the link, or right below this video, there's a link that just says watch the next video here. Just click on that. It'll take you right there to it. And it's starting in just a few seconds. So thanks very much for joining us. Tawny and Celia, thank you so much for joining us. This was freaking amazing. And we absolutely love the work you're doing. And we really appreciate you giving us the time.
Thank you. An honor and a privilege.
Happy to. See y'all next year when it's a national holiday.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, thanks you.
All right, everybody. Continue on with the Sisko Day. Love everybody and have some fun.